Okay, we're back in the studio for a last-minute session with people who did and did not want to be here. So I'm very happy I got you all on this panel. We're going to talk about education. And you all three have a very different role in that. So I'm joined by Julian, Johan, and Dan. And I'm starting with you, Dan. So you do a lot of in-person training. Mm-hmm. You give training at Brighton SEO, at Measurefest. Mm-hmm. You train a lot of clients in person. Mm-hmm. You also educate through your podcast, I would argue, a little bit. But I would say you enjoy in-person training, right?
Yeah, I love it. I think I counted over 1,000 people last year.
Wow.
Collectively. I mean, obviously, some of that's online, some of that's in person. But yeah, I've been doing it for 12 years. And I started by being told I was going to do training. I never wanted to do training. And over the last couple of years, I've really enjoyed it and got really into like learning design and thinking about structure of learning rather than throwing lots of technicalities at people, because that
bombarding them with analytic slides.
Years of trial and error, but we've got there, and I really enjoy the process. It's a very it sounds really obvious, but it's very rewarding. You know, it's really nice to when you see someone click and they're like, "Oh, I get it," and yeah, that's the good stuff.
And then Johan, you have a totally different story. I would argue you also have trained a lot of people. I went through your course, so you do the GA4 BigQuery course with Simo Hava on his platform Simmer. You also have your own website where you have premium articles that I know a lot of people use to learn how to use the GA4 raw data export, basically.
Yep.
So you're also an educator, but less in person.
Definitely. So I do client work, and then I obviously like to train one-on-one or really small groups. That's what I like in a working session environment, not a presentation style. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
I prefer, like, I guess you could say, anonymous training. Like, I record videos. I don't see who is on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Or I write about it, blogs, basically, and that's my style. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it for you an afterthought, or do you create the content to help you understand it yourself, or what's the?
Usually it is I have an issue. I try to invent the wheel, so to say. Usually I like to be one of the first at a certain topic to do that. So most of the times there's little documentation around. So I really have to dig and find my way in a subject. And then I can, when I really understand it enough, then I'm ready to share it with others. And that's what I like. And when I start to see a lot of people talking about the same subject, I'm ready to move on to another subject.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good idea from a marketing perspective as well, right?
Yeah, that's sure.
And Julian, you have a totally different take. So you are structurally training people to become better at analytics from the agency perspective, I would say, right?
Yeah, I think for me, the initial trigger was probably a challenge with recruiting the right people. Yeah. You know, that's the industry sort of exploded. There is no in education in the UK. There was no clear path to becoming an analyst, and speaking to my peers and people at MeasureCamp, etc., asking them how they found their way into analytics. You probably find the same. They came from everywhere. You know, you've got people with geography degrees and people with history degrees and like all sorts of things. So and I think I also got to a point in my career where I was looking for a little bit more meaning for me. You know, and I think teaching sort of gives you that after having done it for so many years for just basically supporting clients. So it was really nice to be able to sit down and think about what it takes to be an analyst. And then what I wanted to do was I wanted to provide a pathway into our amazing industry to anyone, really, whether you come out of university or you're a sort of midlife career changer. There are lots of people out there bringing transferable skills. And it's most of the people, when you speak to them, they sort of fell into it because there is something in there that they like. So all you have to do is find the people that that they may not know that they have that, but for that you design a recruitment process that sort of tries to flush this out of people. and it's been really rewarding building. This is a 12-month program that I've built within the agency, which also gives people the possibility to actually learn to work in an agency environment on real client projects with project managers and other digital disciplines. Because you've got to really not only teach them about analytics, their brain already does that quite well, but you've got to teach them about the entire digital context. They come to you and they've used Google before, but they've never thought about that there is paid adverts in there and all the different sort of parts of real estate. So you've got to teach the whole thing.
Yeah. So I've been through this experience myself as well, like not able to hire, okay, we're going to train people. Yeah. And then I made the huge mistake of focusing only on the technical aspect of what we do. And then I realized, like, oh, wait a second, these people actually have to work. And work is not just about knowing what button to click. There's all these aspects around it.
Yeah.
So then for you, do you train mostly analysts or marketers? And what's the difference when you think about teaching analytics?
It's a big difference. So a lot of my training courses are mixed teams, team-based training. So the whole team, whether it's a full marketing team or even a whole organisation or agency, and I'll go through that, which changes the approach somewhat because you can't. I always say that my aim with a team-based training is not to make everyone really good. It's to get the base level slightly higher. And it's not about being able to answer the question yourself or know what button to click, but it's also knowing what's possible so you can ask someone else to click the button. I know what it's capable of or doing. If we think GA specifically, I'm not teaching you for you to go do it. Some of the people in the room will be, but you just know that it can do that now and you can start asking different questions. A really terrible analogy I give whenever I do this is like I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? And it's going to stick differently for everybody. But as a collective, there'll be enough spaghetti on the wall to be able to figure it out afterwards.
Yeah, there will be some dinner left.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Johan, for you, I think it's kind of the other way around, right? So you operate from your own curiosity, so to say, and then you turn that into content. Is there something right now? Because I think your course with Simo is 3 years old, maybe even
3, 4, yeah, something like that.
So I think you're going to refresh that.
Yeah, we're in the process of re-recording it.
Okay.
And also add some new content to it. So this is a kind of a special course because it's not really only about learning how to use a tool, right?
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of how to use BigQuery, how to basically learn
to write SQL,
yeah. And explain a lot about the abstract concepts of raw event data and how to turn that into meaningful stuff. Yeah. So that's what makes it interesting for me because I could never only teach. Indeed, how to click a button in a certain tool, go to this menu. That would be so incredibly boring to me.
Yeah. So do you have future ideas of other things that you might be interested in building courses about?
Well, we've moved on to a new project that's called GA4 Data Forum. Yes. We just discussed here with the other guys that are also at SPWK. We might set up something like an academy as well, just to train people how to, not only how to use the data models we are producing for them, but mainly what can you do with it? So what are the use cases? How can you really make it work for your business or organization? I think that's where the real value is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be very interested in that. Also, the people who previously, who did your first course. Yeah, it's a logical progression, so to say.
Indeed.
So, Julian, at the agency, there is working with clients. Then there is knowing analytics. Then there is interoperating within the agency. What do you think is the biggest challenge for new graduates? So people without. People out of school or wherever they come from.
I think, from my experience, it's different for every single one. It depends on what everybody brings something that they're already good at to the table. And for one person, it might be, you know, one person might be really technical and might get to grips with Advanced Tag Manager and BigQuery quite quickly, whereas for another person, that might be the hardest part. A really interesting exercise we went through as an agency last year was like a strength finder exercise, because I think this is also like one of the biggest learnings for me as a manager over the last few years. I always tried to make everyone good at everything in my team, and that doesn't work. That created bad situations, and you know, people leaving, which I regretted afterwards, because I tried to make them good at the thing they're not good at. Whereas actually, you need to spin that on the head and figure out what people are good at, and then train them on that. Because you're never going to be good at something that, you know, you're naturally not very strong at. No matter how much training you put in there, you're only ever going to be average. But if you pick the thing that they're already good at and you enable them to really, really lean into that, then they become exceptional at this one thing. So yeah, I think that the biggest challenge is different for every individual.
Do you leverage courses like Johan's course, like Simo Hava
absolutely,
courses?
Absolutely. Siavash is a masterclass for Lucas Studio. We've used absolutely. I use material that is already out there, because I had to put this all together. Yeah. So the agency was good enough to allow me to full-time build this, but I wasn't going to build all the content. So the first thing I did was a sweep of the entire ecosystem to see what content is already there that I can build into this. And also, I didn't have a fully prescribed sort of 6 or 12-month course. I set them off. I built some columns, sort of pillars of learning. There is data collection and engineering. I know engineering was its own. There is the digital context. There is visualization and storytelling, and then obviously a really important analysis, data analysis sort of element to it. And get them started on all 5 of those, and then I let them go, and I see which ones they pick up and which ones they want to lean into, and then I support them in doing that.
Do you also offer like non-tech, non-data content?
Yeah, absolutely. Because my background, I'm not particularly technical. My background is a business background. I get excited about business. I get excited about getting under the skin of a new business. Like every time we get a new client on, that's exciting for me, especially if it's an industry I haven't worked in. So in the sort of the digital context element of the learning, there's almost like a mini MBA sort of thing in there, where I teach them to think about how companies make money. How does the money flow, and work this one all the way back to what you can actually influence. You know, it's like teaching them to ask good questions, teaching them to teach their clients to ask good questions.
Really important.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Then, when you do live training, how much do you rely on stuff that's already out there?
Live, it's harder. So essentially, like I point people to like Johan's courses and things like that at the end as like a follow-up and do it. But when you're live, you've got to be... the hardest thing with live training is to adapt on the fly, but also make good use of the time. Because we're training... I've built a course, right? I've got content, I've got demo accounts, I've got things ready to go, and I've done them 1,000 times. I know what I'm doing. But the hardest thing is to, if you think of it as a I need to get to the end, I want to start here, we're going to go through and we're going to finish. That's me trying to get to the end. That's not helping them learn anything. What I say to all of the students that I teach, I say, look, you're not going to learn today. Learning doesn't happen today. Learning will happen afterwards. Today, it's about exposing you to as many things, ideas, and the whole spaghetti analogy, right? They're going to find something, as Julian was saying, find something that they're interested in or is relevant, and they'll discover it themselves further afterwards. But the thing for me is... I have this course, and I say to them, like, you have this, you know, this Google Doc, it's all yours. Here's the link. It's yours forever. It's evergreen. I don't care. There's more in here than we have time to go through. And so I jump around a little bit. I skip things, and it's really important to read people's reactions. And I find it's more challenging online, but in person it's beautiful because you can see. If they don't understand UTMs, then I'm not going to talk about attribution modeling. And if they're like, yeah, we get this, we can go deeper in a certain subject. So that aspect is the cutting things out, making the best use of the time. We could spend the whole session talking about one thing if that is the most important thing.
You've got a challenge that I think Johan and I haven't, which is that you will quite frequently have people in front of you that maybe don't want to be there.
For sure, yeah. The one person that books it, and then everyone else.
They come hungry to me and to you because they're there because they want to be there. They've applied for it. They've gone through a rigorous process of getting there. Whereas because I know this because I've run many analytics trainings from the agency in a similar way to you, just not in the depth. How do you? First of all, how do you spot them, and then how do you deal with them? How do you not let those influence the dynamics of the course when you don't see the excitement, you don't see the penny drop?
You kick them out.
No, it's a really important part of this because I put a lot of prep in, and some people just turn up and they haven't read anything, they haven't read the meeting invite, they don't know what they're doing. So the one thing is about participation. If someone's thinking I can just join this call and sit back, camera off, every time I see a camera off, I'll ask them. I call them out by name. I'll be like, cool, can we have them on? I would never force that. I'm never going to be annoyed by it. But for me, it's like a two-way communication, as I said before. But if people don't want to be there, I use a couple of different crutches. Like I use humour a lot as well. I joke and getting them to participate so that they've contributed and they have to pay attention to contribute. So this is all stuff I learned through working with some learning designers a couple of years ago. What I do is I structure them into modules and I have like a little quiz at the end. If I'm doing it in person, it's really good because I use stickers. I've just got silly branded stickers of GA or whatever, and I use them as currency. And anyone that asks a question or answers or contributes, they get a sticker, and it's this game that we can
likes
play.
A sticker.
They do, but it's also like it's this communal currency for the day, and it's a little stupid game. And I use humour a lot as well, and we joke around. But if you get them to participate, then they're not going to learn it if they don't want to learn it. And if they don't want to be there and they've been told to be there, then you can't do much. But you can make the process more enjoyable for them, which helps everyone else have a better time, because if there's 2 or 3 people in a room of 10 that just are not, they're just doing emails and stuff, then that's going to be disruptive. Yeah. And so you've got to keep it circling. Everyone has to jump in. Everyone has to say something at the beginning. And these little techniques are the ways to minimize the effect. You can't remove that effect. You can't remove it.
I think, summing up, as we have one minute left, what I realized is that over the last, so I've been in this industry roughly speaking 10 years, and 10 years ago there was way less content online and the quality of it was way lower. I think now the learning aspect, it doesn't make sense to do that. Like you said, you're not going to learn in that session, real life. You should get inspired, right? You should get triggered, because there's so much great quality content out there to actually learn in depth. And combining that, we also do this at the agency. We try to buy access to all courses. So I think that's a no-brainer. So I want to thank you all for sharing, and hopefully we get to enjoy the conference together a little bit more.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.